This next one comes from Kyle Orland over at Ars Technicana, who's written an article called RIP Kinect. Discontinued USB adapter is the last nail in the coffin for influential tech. Kyle writes, Microsoft is no longer producing the USB Kinect adapter needed to hook the latest version of the depth sensing camera's proprietary connection to an Xbox One S, One X, or PC. The adapter, which was briefly offered for free to Xbox One S purchasers through last March, was subsequently sold for $40 to users who still wanted to use the camera and voice activated microphone array on more modern hardware. But Microsoft has now confirmed to Polygon that the adapter is no longer being produced, so Microsoft can, quote, focus attention on launching new, higher fan requested gaming accessories across Xbox One and Windows 10. While the adapter can still be purchased second-hand, often at a significant premium, and the Kinect can still be used with original Xbox One hardware, or in Microsoft Redmond's campus store, the move is clear. Final nail in the coffin regarding any continued Kinect support on Microsoft's part. It has long been a slow death for Microsoft's Kinect initiative, which was clearly in trouble once the unit was unbundled from the standard Xbox One package in 2014, leading almost immediately to heavily improved sales for the Kinect free console. By the time Microsoft announced it was halting Kinect production a few months ago, both user demand and developer support for the unit had been rapidly congealing for years. But it's worth remembering how revolutionary the original Kinect felt following its explosive launch in late 2010. The prospect of playing games without a controller led the $150 peripheral to become the world's fastest selling consumer electronics device out of the gate, with 10 million units sold in under 6 months. One could see the potential signs of impending fad in that early success, though it has a relatively low initial attach rate for the Kinect software, showed users weren't engaging much past the unbundled Kinect adventures and perhaps Harmonix's Dance Central. Our initial assessment of the tech noted problems with lag, resolution, lack of buttons, and a need of lots of space that would prove key to limiting Kinect's long-term appeal. By 2012, however, Microsoft is still pushing Kinect's power titles hard on the E3 stage. It was also pushing the technology on a somewhat reluctant Windows audience, which came to be dominated by hackers more than any commercial development. By the time a new and improved version of Kinect was being tied to the Xbox One in 2013, Microsoft should perhaps have sensed that technology moment had passed. But the company instead leaned in heavily on improved hardware, confident that the ubiquitous voice control from anywhere in the room would justify the $100 in additional hardware price over competition. While that was no doubt true for some, the vast majority of consumers had clearly gotten over the Kinect's gee whiz factor years ago. Not that Microsoft seemed entirely aware of the shift in consumer sentiment. The Kinect is really something that we feel once you take out, lots of people will go, gosh, I really liked that, I got used to it and now I'm going to miss it. Xbox Group Program Manager David Dennis told Ars Technicana just moments before the hardware was unbundled. I think the more consumers get exposed to it, the more they'll use it. They'll realise what a great, amazing experience it was. Kinect technology lives on, in a miniaturised form, in Microsoft mixed reality headsets, which use outward-facing depth-sensing cameras to detect head movement and controller positioning. Similarly, miniaturised technology powers the Face ID system in Apple's iPhone X, as well as Google's recently discontinued Project Tango. While the Kinect may not have ended up as a permanent revolution in the controller-free user interface, its impact on the consumer electronics industry is still being felt today. As Microsoft heads into its first full Kinect-free year this decade, it seems like as good of an excuse as to drag out the old Xbox 360 and indulge in one more game of Dance Central to remember it by. So that was written by Kyle over at Ars Technicana in 2018 there. Now, here's a bit of a personal story here. When Kinect launched, I worked for a retailer here in the UK called Game Station. Still, best job I ever had. It was good, I was in my teens. It was good my job was literally to talk about games. I mean, yeah, you'd serve the tills and you'd take the trade-ins and stuff like that. But actually talking to the customers about games was hands down brilliant. And good staff there as well. I miss them all. Part of my job, they announced the Kinect in March of that year, if I remember, and it was launched in November. And part of my job was to talk up the Kinect and secure those pre-orders. We'll take in deposits, I think. How do I put this? I bought into my own hype. I'm that good a salesman that I convinced myself. Because when it was first announced, you look at it, and I was just like, iToy. You remember the iToy? If you don't remember the iToy, it was the PlayStation 2 equivalent. It was a webcam, basically. You sat on top of your TV, playing mini games where you're popping bubbles with your hands and washing windows. But yeah, we were not that far removed out from iToy that I still thought, right, it's just an iToy basically. But, job being what it was, you brought up the talking points. Oh, you'll be able to control it with your voice. Xbox, play music, things like that. Stuff that is everyday today, You've got Siri, you've got Google Assistant, you've got Alexa. But, back in the day, this was a brand new thing, we're talking a decade ago at this point. So I bought into it somehow. And, day one, bought it, took it home, got out of the box, put it on top of the TV, and I delved right into Kinect Adventures, which I found was bundled in. And for a few brief moments, I was loving it. The Kinect Adventures, you're going down Rubber Dinghy Rapids, bro. Sorry, that's an in-joke there. You're going down River Rapids, and sorry if I'm coming out the microphone range here, but this is what you're doing to control it, and sure enough, it's reflected on the screen. And it was pretty one-to-one. I wasn't, the article there mentioned something about lag or input delays. I didn't personally notice any of that, but I was loving it. Starting to get a bit hot and sweaty under the collar. I was a bit larger than I am today. I'm still large, not that you can see. But then I popped in Dance Central. We've talked about Harmonix on this channel before. I love Harmonix as a developer. I love anything to do with music. Music's my other interest outside of video games. Dance Central was amazing. Now, I was I'm pretty long-haired at the moment, but I was I was a real metalhead back in those days. I was like, everything else is rubbish. So I thought you on Dance Central. I didn't know any of the songs. Next thing you know, I'm giving it Soldier Boy and all that. And again, it was one-to-one. Harmonix are,